Welcome. My name is Anthony. I'm Director of Leap to Drive, and today we're going to begin our theory study programme, and we're going to commence with part 1 of 2 parts on the subject of alertness. I'll let you read through this for a moment so you understand who I am. I think you'll agree that I am experienced and highly qualified. Hopefully that will help you to feel that you're in good hands. Let's now look at the subject of today's presentation in more detail. We strongly recommend the following learning materials: the Highway Code, Know Your Traffic Signs, the DVSA publication Driving the Essential Skills, and the DVSA Guide to Hazard Perception DVD-ROM for PCs and Macs. All these are available to buy from our website www.leaptodrivinaweek.com. So in this section we're going to study potential questions that you'll receive during your theory test. We're going to look at the answers that we have to choose from, and we're going to learn how to eliminate the wrong answers and come up with the correct one. So this is our first question. You're on a motorway journey. What should you do if you start to feel sleepy? Well, immediately the 2 most important words to me would be motorway and sleepy. On a motorway, we know that you cannot stop except in a genuine emergency when you can use the hard shoulder. Feeling sleepy is not a genuine emergency. Even before I see the possible answers, that's what strikes me about the question. So now let's move on and look at the 4 possible answers. So here's the 4 answers that we're presented with. A. Play loud music. B. Stop on the hard shoulder to rest. C. Drive faster to complete the journey faster. Or D. Leave the motorway and stop in a safe place. Elimination is key. So we already know we cannot stop on the hard shoulder to rest, as that is not a genuine emergency, so it's not B. Drive faster to complete the journey faster? Well, that's just dangerous, so it cannot be C. That leaves A and D. Common sense surely tells us the best course of action has to be to leave the motorway as soon as we can, entering a service area or at an exit to an A or B road where we can find a safe place to stop and recover. The answer therefore has to be D. And here's confirmation. Good. Let's move on. What's the reason for the answer? Answering the question correctly is all well and good, but knowledge and understanding as to how we've reached the correct answer is key. So after every correct answer has been confirmed, we're going to try and understand why we've reached the answer that we've reached. In this case, if you feel sleepy, you should leave the motorway at the service area or at the next exit and stop in a safe place to rest. A supply of fresh air can help to keep you alert before you reach the exit, but that is not a substitute for stopping and resting. So there's some additional good advice there. We could open a window until we find a safe place to exit the motorway, as that will help. But it is not a substitute for stopping for that rest. Let's now move on to another question. So the next question is, you're waiting to emerge from a junction, the windscreen pillar is restricting your view. What should you be particularly aware of? So the windscreen pillar, to explain, is that piece of metal between either side of the front windscreen and the doors. It's what holds your windscreen in place from the sides. We cannot see through it as it's made of metal on the outside and material on the inside, so it does prevent us from having a clear view. In this question, we're at a junction waiting to emerge. So let's see the 4 possible answers. What we know is only one of these answers is correct, and the choice we have is A, buses, B, cyclists, C, lorries, or D, cars. What might be the most difficult to see behind the pillar? Buses and lorries are particularly large normally. Cars are all a reasonable size. Cyclists are smaller, much more difficult to see. Often cyclists wear dark clothing and merge into the background, so can be even more difficult to see. Therefore B has to be the correct answer. And here's confirmation. Pretty straightforward, that one. To assist our knowledge and understanding, cycles are small and can be difficult to see. The cyclist may be wearing dark clothing, merging into the background. They may be young and inexperienced. As a road user, cyclists are vulnerable. The last point is a good one. You don't even need to pass a driving test to ride a cycle on the road. Certainly cyclists are the most vulnerable out of our 4 choices that we were given. They are of course the smallest of the 4. Let's move on to the next question. There are objects hanging from your interior mirror. Why could this be a hazard? Just by reading the question, distraction comes to mind. And whatever is hanging down will be between the driver and the windscreen. Back in the 1970s, hanging football boots was very popular. Nowadays I see air fresheners. Whenever my car is valeted, often the cleaners put a courtesy air freshener in and hang it from the mirror. The first thing I do when I get into the car is to remove it. Let's look at the 4 possible answers we're asked to choose from. A, your view could be obstructed. B, your radio reception might be affected. C, your sun visor might get tangled. D, your windscreen could mist up more easily. Immediately, A falls in line with what we thought initially. I dismiss B and D immediately. B is clearly wrong. C, the sun visor is above and to the side of the mirror, so cannot be right. Looking at D, the windscreen demisters are at the base of the windscreen usually and blow upwards, so anything hanging from the mirror could move due to the flow of air and further distract and obstruct the driver's view. But it's unlikely. The answer has to be A. Let's seek confirmation from the next slide. So elimination there was key, and that helped us to get the right answer. Let's have a look at the knowledge and understanding. Why is it the correct answer? Well, ensure that you can see clearly through the windscreen of your vehicle. Stickers or hanging objects could obstruct your view or draw your attention away from the road. So our initial reasoning was absolutely correct. Hanging objects from mirrors, not a good idea. Our next question is a short one also. Why should you switch your headlights on when it first starts to get dark? My initial thought process before seeing the possible answers, well, I immediately think, why do we turn on the headlights? Firstly, to be seen by others. Secondly, to see ahead. So we've got some ideas in mind already, But let's now have a look at the 4 possible answers. A, to make your dials easier to see. B, so that you blend in with other drivers. C, so others can see you more easily. Or D, because the streetlights are lit. Remember, only one answer is correct. Looking at A, when turning on your lights, the dials will illuminate, so it is a possibility. B is obviously wrong. C, it's another possibility. I'd say more important than A to be seen by other road users. It has to be vital to be seen by other road users. D, well, may encourage you to turn on your headlights, but the answer has to be C. It's very important to see and be seen. To be seen by other road users is the correct answer. So the answer is C. Let's have a look why. There's the confirmation. Well, looking why our knowledge and understanding of the correct answers, well, headlights and taillights are used to help others on the road to see you. It may be necessary to turn on your headlights during the day if visibility is reduced, for example due to heavy rain. In these conditions, the light might fade before the street lights are timed to be switched on. Be seen to be safe. Makes sense, doesn't it? Street lights are usually on a timer, so come on at certain times of the day, just before it gets dark, and automatically go out the following morning as it gets light. But visibility can be poor at other times as well, due to adverse weather, for example. Heavy rain is a good example, also snow and fog. Treacherous to drive through at times and can make us and other road users difficult to see. So, having got the understanding of that, let's move on to the next question. So the question is, what's most likely to distract you whilst driving? Well, this is an open question, and there are many things that could distract us. Using a mobile phone, listening to music, changing a channel on the radio, arguing with a passenger. I could go on and on. This is one where we need to have a look at the options from A to D to establish the correct answer. So let's have a look at the next slide now. Well, these are the options that we've been given. A, using a mobile phone. B, using the demisters. C, using the mirrors. Or D, using the windscreen wipers. B, C and D, it seems to me, are all legitimate things we need to do whilst driving at times. So the answer here clearly has to be A. And to use a handheld mobile phone whilst driving, of course, is illegal. The answer is A. And here's the confirmation. Pretty straightforward, that one. So here's confirmation of the reasons why. Except for genuine emergencies, it's illegal to use a handheld mobile phone whilst you're driving. Even if using a hands-free kit, it can severely distract your attention. Emergencies have to be genuine. So calling home, asking them to record the football or the soap opera that's on this evening is not an emergency. Be aware that if you're speaking to someone on the phone whilst you're driving, handheld or otherwise, the person you're speaking to cannot see what's going on ahead of you, whereas your passengers inside the vehicle usually can. So if you're faced with a hazard, your passengers would be aware and usually stop speaking. The person at the other end of the phone, however, will be oblivious to what you're having to deal with, so will continue to speak to you and continue to distract you. The saying is the glove box is the phone box. And just in case you didn't know, being caught using a handheld mobile phone whilst driving has a penalty of an automatic £200 fine and 6 penalty points. Under the new Drivers Act, if you receive 6 penalty points within 2 years of passing your driving test, you'll lose your driving licence. If you lose your driving licence under these circumstances, you will have to reapply for your provisional driving licence. You will have to study and pass your theory test again, and you probably will need some more driving lessons and pass your practical driving test again. You'll still have 6 points on your licence even after passing your driving test. As a new driver, many insurers will refuse to insure you, as you're a bad risk. And those who will insure you will increase your insurance premiums way above what they had been without the 6 points. And that won't just be in year one, that will go on for years. Let's move on, shall we? The next question is, you're driving your car. When may you use a handheld mobile phone? So we're staying on the same subject because it's so important. Let's have a look at the options. The options we've been given are A, when you're receiving a call, B, when you're driving at less than 30 miles an hour, C, when you've parked safely, or D, when your car has automatic transmission. Well, as far as A is concerned, making or receiving a call matters not. You're still distracted during the call. B, speed doesn't make a difference either. In fact, sometimes in 30 mile an hour areas, it can be more dangerous than 70 because you have more things to deal with at once. C, when parked safely, well, yeah, that seems quite reasonable to me. When parked safely, like that. D, manual or automatic doesn't matter at all. So I'm sure we can all agree the answer must be C. And here's the confirmation. So knowledge and understanding. Why was it the correct answer? Well, it's illegal to use a handheld mobile phone when you're driving, except in a genuine emergency. Even using a hands-free kit can distract your attention. So park in a convenient and safe place before receiving or making a call or using text messaging. Then you'll also be free to take notes or refer to paper. Makes it clear, doesn't it? Let's move on. Our next question moves away from mobile phones and is, you're driving on a wet road. What should you do if you have to stop your vehicle in an emergency? Well, this is another of those where there can be various answers, so we need to look at the options, as we might have to do some eliminating of those options. So there are 4 possible answers, and remember only one is correct. A, apply the parking brake and the foot brake together. Well, you only apply the parking brake when the car is stationary or in the unlikely event of your brakes failing, so that doesn't seem likely. B, select reverse gear. Well, try that and you'll crash the gearbox. You'll hear a terrible noise, you're unlikely to find reverse, and you'll probably have a massive repair bill, so no, it's not B. C, give an arm signal. Well, I'd like to keep both my hands firmly on the steering wheel if I'm braking in an emergency, so that's highly unlikely. D, keep both hands on the steering wheel. Well, there it is. Keep firm control. Use the foot brake in an emergency stop situation and keep both hands firmly on the wheel. It has to be safest and has to be the correct answer. So it's D. Let's take a look. Never any doubt, I don't think, on this one. So to the knowledge and understanding. As you drive, look well ahead and all round so that you're ready for any hazards that might develop. If you have to stop in an emergency, react as quickly as you can whilst maintaining full control. Keep both hands on the steering wheel so you can control the vehicle's direction of travel. 1 in 3 driving tests have the emergency stop in them. The emergency stop is something that you should certainly be practicing with your instructor. Good. So let's look on at our next question. What should you do before you move off from behind a parked car? Brings to mind a number of things. Prepare the car, observe all round, check the road ahead, maybe signal. So a few options, so I think we need to look at the options that they're giving us here, the 4 possible answers. And here are those 4 possible answers. A. Give a signal after moving off. The word that gives the clue is after. What's the point of signalling after moving off? So I think we can discount that. B. Look around after moving off. There it is again. It's the word after. So that must be wrong. C. Use the vehicle's mirrors only. What worries me here is the word only. Use the mirrors certainly, but not only. There are other places we need to check, for example, the road ahead and our blind spots. So let's now look at D. Even before reading it, it seems favourite, doesn't it? D. Look around before moving off. Excellent. It certainly is the most correct answer, so the answer has to be D. And our answers confirmed. Before moving off, you should use both the interior and exterior mirrors to check that the road is clear. Look around to check the blind spots and if necessary give a signal to warn other road users of your intentions. Also look well ahead, as you'll have to steer out into the road to pass the parked car. So the official explanation confirms everything we've said whilst eliminating the wrong answers. That's how we found the correct one. Let's move on to the next slide. When do windscreen pillars cause a serious obstruction to your view? Well, it's a short question, but a good one. The windscreen pillars are of course the metal frame to the left and right of the windscreen next to the front doors. We can't see through metal, so they do cause an obstruction when we look ahead and slightly to the side. So let's look at the possible options. When you're driving on a motorway is answer A, and you'll notice answer C when you're driving on a dual carriageway. I would say that's very similar. B when you're approaching a one-way street. D when you're approaching bends and junctions. So when you're approaching bends and junctions, the vehicle's going to move to one side or the other depending whether you're going left or right. The pillars are always an obstruction when driving, but I can't see anything different to normal when you're driving on a motorway, a dual carriageway or a one-way street. The answer's got to be D. You want to look towards the left or right when approaching bends or junctions, and sometimes you'll need to lean forward to look around the windscreen pillars and behind them too. D has to be the correct answer. And there we are. So that we fully understand, windscreen pillars can obstruct your view, particularly at bends and junctions. Look out for other road users, especially cyclists, motorcyclists and pedestrians who can be easily overlooked. They're smaller other road users, aren't they? Cyclists, motorcyclists and pedestrians. Much more difficult to see than buses, lorries and cars, especially if they're obscured fully or partially by door pillars. Let's move on to the next question. What should you do if you can't see clearly behind you when reversing? So we're still on the subject of observations, this time when reversing. Rule 202 of the Highway Code deals with observations when reversing, and I would advise you to read it. It says look carefully before you start reversing. You should use all your mirrors. Check the blind spot behind you. That's the part of the road you can't see easily in the mirrors. Check there are no pedestrians, particularly children, cyclists, other road users or obstructions in the road behind you. Reverse slowly while checking all round. Look mainly through the rear window. That's not in the mirrors, but physically turning and looking through the rear window and being aware that the front of your vehicle will swing out as you turn. Finally, get someone to guide you if you cannot see clearly. If you know your highway code, then that last sentence seems remarkably similar to the question. The last sentence in the Highway Code Rule 202 is getting someone to guide you if you can't see clearly. I think we have a clue here, but let's have a look at the options. The four possible answers are A, open the window to look behind. Well, that might help a bit in some circumstances. Option B, look in the near side mirror. Well, that's just one of many places we must look, so it's not wrong, but there must be a better answer. C, ask someone to guide you. Now then, as I've said, that is the final sentence of Rule 202 and the clues in the question. So it looks very good to me, but let's see what D has to say. D, open the door to look behind. No. A bit like opening the window, but of course opening the door can be dangerous. Cannot see any occasion you'd be safe to drive with an open door. It has to be C. Make sure you've got the highway code and read it. That will help you not just to pass your theory test, but be a better and safer driver. Let's move on. Was there any doubt? If you want to turn your car around, try to find a place where you have good all-round vision. If this isn't possible and you're unable to see clearly, then get someone to guide you. Much of the highway code and driving safely is about common sense, isn't it? Of course, you don't always have to reverse in order to turn around. You could use a roundabout, but not a mini roundabout. Rule 188 of the Highway Code advises against doing U-turns on mini roundabouts. But a larger roundabout, a conventional roundabout, is a very safe place, usually, to turn around. Let's move on. So to the next question, you're turning right onto a dual carriageway. What should you do before emerging? Well, this is a dangerous manoeuvre, or can be a dangerous manoeuvre if not carried out safely. Turning right onto a dual carriageway, so we have to drive across the traffic coming towards us from the right, then pass through a central reservation before turning onto the carriageway on the other side. The speed limit can be anything depending on signs, but a maximum of 70 miles an hour. So this can be a very dangerous manoeuvre unless completed with care and safety. Let's have a look at the options that we're given to choose from. Okay, let's remember that only one of these is correct. A. Stop, apply the parking brake and select the low gear. Well, yes, if the road's not clear or we can't see very well, we could stop, apply the parking brake and select the low gear before moving away. So I'm open-minded about that. It could be correct. B. Check that the central reservation is wide enough for your vehicle. Well, that's important, especially if we intend to stop there. So for example, if to the right is clear but the left isn't, if the central reservation is wide enough, we can drive into it and wait. So that's a better answer than A, I'd say. C. Position your vehicle well to the left of the side of the road. Well, that could be correct as well, but remember, only one of these is correct. So we do keep to the left unless road or traffic signs say differently. It could be right, but I don't think it's as good an answer as B. B's looking favourite. Option D. Make sure that you leave enough room for a vehicle behind. No. Any following vehicle driver or rider has the responsibility to ensure that they have enough space before following. So I'll discount D. A and C are possibles, but not as correct as B. The answer therefore is B. Let's look for confirmation. Yeah, good elimination there to give us the correct answer. Worked very well, the elimination process. So let's have a look at the reason why, the knowledge and understanding. Before turning right onto a dual carriageway, ensure the central reservation is wide enough to protect your vehicle. If it isn't, you should treat the dual carriageway as one road and check that it is clear in both directions before pulling out. Neglecting to do this could place part or all of your vehicle in the path of approaching traffic and cause a collision. That makes good sense, doesn't it? Let's move on to the next question. So we're coming towards the end of part 1 of alertness. But let's read this next question. What does the term blind spot mean? It's a straightforward question. Blind spot suggests an area we cannot see into. So let's have a look at what options we're given. A. An area covered by your right hand mirror. B. An area covered by your left hand mirror. C. An area covered by your headlights. Or D. An area not visible to the driver. Well, A, B and C are all areas we can see into, so they seem unlikely. When you read D, it's an area that is not visible to the driver, so not being visible, not being able to see into it, it has to be correct, don't you think? And there's the confirmation that we wanted. And to assist our knowledge and understanding, modern vehicles provide the driver with a good view of both the road ahead and the road behind using well-positioned mirrors. However, the mirrors cannot see every angle of the scene to the side and behind the vehicle. It's essential that you know when and how to check the vehicle's blind spots so that you're aware of any hidden hazards. We've already discovered that we have blind spots behind the windscreen pillars, and of course we have blind spots to the side of the cars. The mirrors are very useful but don't cover everything, so we need to look around and to the sides as well as using the mirrors. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for attending the first part of the lesson on alertness. That's the end of part 1 of the lesson. In part 2 we'll be looking at some more questions, how to eliminate the incorrect answers and end up with the correct answer, but we'll also be looking at the case study section of the theory test and conduct a mock test to check on your progress. Please do sign up for section 2 of alertness. Bye for now.